Happy snaps of a loved-up couple.
Well, it did rain yesterday, so it would have been a rainforest yesterday.
And last month, while on holiday in Fiji, Magistrate Rodney Higgins made it official with 23-year-old court clerk Ashleigh Petrie. His wife-to-be, more than 40 years his junior, posted on Instagram. It started with a crush, and now I have a ring on my finger.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And tonight we find out what it's like to be condemned in the court of public opinion. And it is not a happy story. So why on earth was the tale of a magistrate and his young fiancée such a big story on the TV news? Well, it all began with this front-page exclusive in Melbourne's Herald Sun.
Courtship sparks concerns.
Which reported that Victorian court staff had been warned about inappropriate workplace relationships after Ashleigh Petrie and Rod Higgins had become engaged. The Daily Mail had quickly jumped on that bandwagon by ripping off the Hun story and adding a photo of the 23-year-old Petrie in a bikini. Tasteful. And next day by getting a relationship and body language expert to say the couple might be doomed.
Expert reveals whether a relationship with a large age gap can ever work, and the body language and warning signs it's doomed.
By that time, Nine's A Current Affair was also leaping aboard by vox-popping random people about what they thought of it all.
That's obscene. I reckon that's obscene.
In that legal profession, you would think that they would know better.
And by digging into Petrie's Instagram account to reveal this salacious bit of news.
Before this relationship, Ashleigh was in love with a man 25 years her senior. Not that there's anything wrong with 50 Shades of Grey.
Meanwhile, the Herald Sun's editor was rubbing his hands at all the clicks the story was generating. On October the 11th, Damon Johnston sent an email to his staff praising journalist Shannon Deary for getting the scoop and coming up with follow-ups and fresh angles, and also for boosting sales.
The online reports attracted 93,000 subscriber page views and 30 subs. To put that into perspective, a story is considered a digital success if it gets 2,500 page views or 1 sub.
And soon the Herald Sun was back to the chase with more fresh angles, as columnist Susie O'Brien branded Petrie a gold digger.
While it's possible this is a true love match that will stand the test of time, I find myself assuming tired old stereotypes. He must be in it for her looks, glamour and youth. She must be in it for his money, power and status.
And a couple of days later, the Hun was able to kick it on yet again, with the reporter who got the original exclusive telling readers even more about Ashleigh Petrie's personal life.
Clark's castle conquest. Loved-up court clerk Ashleigh Petrie, 23, had a 1-month fling with Magistrate Costas Kilias, 59, who played Daryl Kerrigan's neighbour Farouk in the Aussie movie classic. She was also in a sexual relationship with 68-year-old Magistrate Rodney Higgins at the time, while both were in other long-term relationships.
Yes, the loved-up court clerk with a taste for older men. So why on earth was that anybody's business? And of course the Daily Mail again ripped it off and ramped it up with another moralistic headline.
Guilty on all 3 counts, Your Honour. Court clerk 23 dated another magistrate more than twice her age before getting engaged to a judge 68, and that's after romancing his 43-year-old neighbour.
By now, the pile-on has spurred the public into action too, prompting friends, foes and total strangers to post on social media messages like this.
She must like old men with a large bank balance that have 1 foot in the grave. I wish her every happiness.
What a crock, as if. Get your spade out, Dale.
So, how did the story end? In a word, tragically. Last week, Ashleigh Petrie was run down by a car at 1 o'clock in the morning on a quiet road in rural Victoria in what appears to have been a suicide. She was staying in a hotel near Bairnsdale with her fiancé Rod Higgins, who told me she got up at midnight and went out for a walk.
I begged her to stay, but she said she needed to clear her head. Over the next hour, she sent me 4 or 5 text and voice messages, one of which said, "I can't cope with all the coverage." She apologised to me and said she loved me, but I'd be better off without her.
Higgins went looking for her and came upon the accident. The ambos were already there. She couldn't be saved. Higgins told me that Ashleigh suffered from depression and anxiety and had told him recently she was in a dark place. But he was also adamant the media coverage was a factor in her death.
She was a lovely, young, fragile, impressionable girl. I have no doubt at all that the Herald Sun and Daily Mail articles tipped her over the top.
So, what does the Herald Sun's editor, Damon Johnson, have to say in his paper's defence? He declined our offer of a phone interview, but the day after Petrie's death, he told Eddie Maguire on Triple M...
This is one of the saddest stories, I think, that'll emerge this year, and tragic, and, you know, all our condolences to Ashleigh Petrie's family.
And today, the Herald Sun told us in a detailed and considered response that they were right to run the story.
This was clearly a public interest issue, given the concerns among lawyers and staff about the impact of the relationship on the dispensing of justice and the official memo to all staff about relationships.
And it seems the story is in fact more complicated than first appears. Damon Johnson says Petrie was in touch with the Herald Sun on a daily basis, and we've seen text messages to back that up. He also says she was encouraging their reports.
Miss Petrie explained she wanted to lift the lid on a toxic culture at the court. She saw herself as a whistleblower.
Johnson also maintains that Ashleigh never indicated that their reporting distressed her or that she was vulnerable.
Miss Petrie made it clear in correspondence that she was not concerned with the coverage and, importantly, did not indicate to us she was suffering any ill effects as a result of any articles or was in a fragile state.
Daily Mail Australia had a similar response. Executive editor Lachlan Hayward told us Petrie was open about her relationship, while the Mail blamed the court's toxic work culture and not the media coverage for putting Petrie under pressure.
Daily Mail Australia has been told that rather than dreading the revelations, Ms Petrie was excited about the prospect of further stories exposing the inner workings of the court. Daily Mail Australia has been told that Ms Petrie had no problems with the reports on her relationship.
However, Rod Higgins categorically denies that, telling me in an email...
She was devastated by the salacious revelations of her private life and had absolutely no intentions of commenting on the magistrate's court.
Media Watch has also spoken to some of Ashleigh's friends and family. One woman who was texting her daily says she was deeply upset by the media coverage. But is it possible she also enjoyed her 15 minutes of fame until it became too much? The picture that emerges is complex, but perhaps the coroner will shed some light on it. And this morning, Magistrate Rodney Higgins told us the Chief Magistrate did not want him to be quoted in tonight's story. We felt strongly that it is in the public interest to hear from him. It's a tragic tale and a salutary lesson for everyone in the media. As Alan Jones said on 2GB in response to news of her death...
Media and social media are vicious and unforgiving, and I think people ought to think twice before they come at some of this criticism that this young lady, 23, had to endure. It appears from the stories that it was too much for her.
We could not agree more. With so many people now living their lives on Facebook and Instagram, the media has unprecedented power to expose, ridicule and judge. They need to be a lot more careful about how they use and abuse it. But now, to the risks of cosmetic surgery and Seven's The Morning Show, which somehow forgets to mention them because it just can't get enough of this.
Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake that healthy butt. Baby got ballet.
Thanks to celebrities like the Kardashians, voluptuous bodies are back in vogue. We reveal why the Brazilian butt lift is the latest cosmetic craze this summer.
Yes, in case you've been living under a rock, big butts are all the rage. And The Morning Show loves featuring one particular doctor and his insights on developing your derriere.
The Brazilian butt lift has surged in popularity thanks to bootylicious celebs such as Kim Kardashian and Nicki Minaj. And the cosmetic surgery trend doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. To explain this to us, cosmetic surgeon Dr. Joseph Ajaka from Cosmos Clinic joins us with the latest trends. Hi, Joseph.
Dr. Joseph Ajaka specialises in body sculpting and buttock augmentation. And he's got firm views on why big butts beat boobs, hands down.
There's so many photos you can take with your bum. There's so many different angles you can use for Instagram.
Right.
With your breast, there's only one set of photos you can really take for Instagram. So it's all about the different photos they can take with the big bum.
Yes, really. And as the good doctor explained, there are plenty of styles to choose from.
There's a Sports Illustrated look, which is like a small look. We have a Beyonce look, which is like a medium look. And then we have the Kim Kardashian look.
Dr. Ajaka is a familiar face on The Morning Show, and in fact he's on so often that he even boasts about it on Instagram.
I always love chatting to Kylie and Larry. They feel part of the family.
But despite all this light-hearted banter on The Morning Show, there is a very serious side to this procedure that The Morning Show and Dr. Ajaka are not covering. Indeed, it can be fatal. 1 week before the doctor's most recent outing, Seven's The Latest was reporting this.
British plastic surgeons are pushing to ban Brazilian butt lift operations after a mother of three died from the highly risky procedure in Turkey.
That story also ran in The Australian, which pointed out
BBLs have the highest death rate of all cosmetic procedures at an estimated 1 in 3,000 operations. Complications arising from the surgery can include severe bacterial infections, scarring, dead tissue, wound ruptures and abscesses.
And the warnings are not just from Britain. They've been in the media in the United States and here in Australia, including this one in The Conversation last year from Professor of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery Jim Frame, who explained that
injecting fat into the buttock can easily lead to serious problems if done incorrectly. These include a fat embolism, when fat enters the bloodstream and blocks a blood vessel. In the lungs, for example, it blocks oxygen from entering the bloodstream, while in the brain it can cause a stroke. Both can be fatal.
But none of these well-publicised dangers have been raised by The Morning Show in their chats with Dr Ajaka this year, unless you count this question from Kylie Gillies.
They're talking about cementing in the bum, like it turns to cement or something. What's that mean?
Well, cement, maybe they're talking about silicone injections, which are sort of banned in Australia and the United States. There's a very high risk of infection.
Right.
They have been used in South America.
So, we asked Seven why The Morning Show keeps promoting the Brazilian butt lift without telling its viewers about the high risks. It chose to duck that question, but it did tell us.
Dr Ajaka is not paid and there is no commercial arrangement whatsoever.
We also asked the Australasian College of Cosmetic Surgery what they thought of The Morning Show's coverage. And amazingly, spokesperson Dr Ron Bezic replied that they want the butt lift banned.
Although risk reduction techniques are adopted by some surgeons, the ACCS believes the risk is not worth it. We advise Australians not to go ahead with a Brazilian butt lift and advises surgeons not to perform these procedures.
So, given that, why doesn't Dr Ajaka tell Morning Show viewers that this controversial procedure carries real risks? He told Media Watch,
if I had been asked the question about potential risks, I would have been more than happy to highlight these potential complications.
Well, frankly, that's not good enough. If you're out there advertising your services, surely a doctor has a duty to tell potential patients what they may be letting themselves in for. And the programme has a duty to make that happen. So, imagine our surprise when today, following our questions to Seven, The Morning Show did just that, rolling out their resident doctor, Ginny Mansberg, all in a last-minute effort to cover their backsides. What a joke. And finally, to property porn and a sexy sale that never took place. In December 2018, the housing website Domain, which fills the Age and Sydney Morning Herald with real estate glory, claimed an astounding new deal.
A Toorak mansion is set to change hands for the eye-watering sum of $52 million. A sale at that level would be the second highest price ever paid for a home in Victoria.
And what's more, this eye-watering sale was at a time when the housing market was going backwards. So, who was the mystery buyer? Sadly, still a secret.
Multiple industry sources confirmed the deal to Domain, but the exact sale price and buyer's identity will become public on settlement.
Except the only problem was there was no settlement because it was all a fiction. Within hours of the story going online, the house's owner, Gary Abian, was tweeting angrily,
"This article is nonsense. Where did you get such incorrect and absurd information? And how dare you publish our names? You bloody idiot."
And half an hour later, he was demanding,
"Take this wrong article down now."
Domain eventually did what he asked, but it took the website 6 days to do so and 2 months to correct the record and apologise, by which time the story was widely reported. The homeowner says there was never any sale, there were no negotiations, and he had no intention of selling. And he was so upset he complained to the Australian Press Council, telling them the $52 million price tag was also ridiculous because the house is not worth that much. More worryingly, he said, the publicity about his wealth had caused his family anxiety and exposed them to danger. Last month, the Press Council found in his favour and ruled that Domain had breached its standards of accuracy and privacy by not checking with Abian in the first place and by publishing a story in which there was no public interest. It doesn't mean, of course, that the public weren't interested, because, as we all know, Australians just love this stuff. It's that, in the Press Council's view, the media has no right to be sticky-beaking. All in all, a bad stuff-up by Domain, and not the first time they've got it wrong. Back in March, a former sports journalist at The Age, Rowan Connolly, tweeted this about Domain's report of another supposed sale.
I'm calling bullshit here. See this East Malvern home, which recently sold for $1 million? It didn't. How do I know? Because it's our house, which we bought more than 8 years ago, still live in, and have never had on the market since.
Whoops, wrong again. Next time, maybe it would make sense to check with the owner, or at least to try. And that's all from us tonight. There's more on our website, including statements from the Herald Sun, the Daily Mail, Seven and Dr. Ajaka. And don't forget, Media Bites on your favourite social media platform every Thursday. But for now, until next week, goodbye.